Aisling. Welcome again at Private Kitchen. And this time I would like to talk about Savage Waters, something completely different until what we heard now. And so I'm very curious. Can you explain a bit short about the story? And it was the first collaboration with Anna, I understood,
Well, it wasn't the first collaboration in
for
terms of
scoring.
writing together, but for
Yeah,
scoring, yeah, exactly.
yeah.
This was the
That's it.
first
Yeah,
film. Yeah. Um, so yeah, Savage Waters. I mean, it's so funny how that happened. Also, because we weren't even really looking for it, but the director of the film had come across. I think, he was looking for composers basically to score the movie, and he had been looking at water and ocean themed um, music and playlists, I suppose. And he stumbled across AVAWAVES. And of course, our first album is called Waves,
waves.
and
Yeah,
it's inspired by the sea. So, and I have to say, looking back, we both admit this, at the titles of the first album, it doesn't leave too much to the imagination. There's like Deep Blue, Waves, Into the Deep. Like it's all pretty clear that it's ocean
yeah.
related. And so the director heard our music and then basically got in touch saying, "Hey, would you be interested in scoring this film?" Then, of course, uh, given the fact that we both have worked in film and TV before, and that was the main thing I was doing anyway. It was like, oh, bingo, we've got we've got two composers who have done this more and want to do something for film whose music I like. So we were super lucky that that kind of landed in our lap. And I remember
Yeah.
saying, Anna was in Berlin at the time, I think, and we were writing. I think it was for our second album. We were writing together, and I got this email, and he sent like, a little segment of the film, and I was like, well, this sounds amazing, like a sailing adventure sea ocean like, what more could we want as
Uh-huh.
a film to land in our laps for a duo that came together writing about the sea? I said to Anna, like, I was like, this sounds a bit too good to be true. Like, something's not, this can't be happening. Oh, that's funny. Did you see that too?
Yeah, some balloons going. Okay.
so so this director reached out over email, and he was like, listen, I'm doing this film, which is like an ocean adventure feature documentary about sailing and surfing and the sea. And I came across Ava Waves, and I was wondering if you'd be interested in scoring it. So I said to Anna, this feels too easy. Like, I'd never, I've never been given a film just because, like, hey, there you are. And then we jumped on a Zoom call with the director, Mikey, and it was just, yeah, instant bonding. And we were just like, yeah, this sounds amazing. And then it evolved into us scoring Savage Waters, which was, such a. It started off as a passion project of Mikey and turned into an award-winning film, which is just incredible. He really did an amazing job, and the producer, Ghislaine, who lives in France, she also was a huge, huge feature of making this film happen and become a feature film. So it was a really collaborative, amazing process where we kind of got to um, tag along on the journey. Not literally. I did try and fight for some time on a boat somewhere in the Maldives, but unfortunately it didn't seem beneficent to the score. But yeah, so that's the film, and it basically follows this British family who are just incredibly inspiring, with a couple and three young kids traveling all over the world. And it's like a combination of home videos that they've shot from when
Mm.
the kids were growing up, to Mikey's footage when he's on the boat with them. And then it's combined with also footage of like pro surfing
Mm.
competitions, and it kind of combines these different worlds. But at the heart of it, it's really just about family, adventure, and exploring the world.
And how did you start out? Because you already had been composing together on songs, etc., on your album, but never before. This was the first score that you did. Did you simply start working the same way as you did for your album, or had you the idea we have to do it in a different way? Or how did it go?
I think whenever we've written together, even for our album, we often have a visual or a story in our head, you know? So even though it's instrumental, what we're writing, we'll be like, oh, imagine that we're here and this is happening, or imagine that it's this kind of setting. And I think we're both very visual people. So we've always kind of discussed what the film to our music would look like, if that makes sense, as we're writing it. And so this was just like, it was flipped in reverse, where it was like, okay, well, here's the film, and now you get to write the music to it. So I think the first few times of like writing demos is, you know, like I said, we always start together in a room, and it was just receiving the first bits of footage and ideas and just conversations, really just talking through what are the emotions at the heart of this film, what is it you want to say with this film. And we really just wanted to translate the kind of intimacy of the relationships in the film, but at the same time the expanse of the ocean, you know, the absolute vastness of the landscape, and how universal all of these subjects really were. So we just started writing themes. I think initially we just sit down, the two of us, and we just try and come up with some motifs and melodies. And we had the freedom in this particular film to really go quite big, which was amazing.
But you started, as you said before, jamming together after
piano and violin,
watching some footage, etc., and then and then decide upon this might be something for the film, this piece.
Because also, I mean, so Anna's an incredible soloist, so just jamming the two of us, even with piano and violin, you know, then you get to the core part of it, which is you know, the melody and the motif. And then you can imagine, like, oh God, under this you will have, you know, a string ensemble come up underneath it, and you know, then we can have electronic pads that like cause the waves and that roar up, and so you get inspired as you're writing it together. And I guess that is also, in a way, different about doing it in a team. And you know, we're both very excitable people, so I'm sure that absolutely contributes to it. But Anna's just as excitable, if not more, than I am. So once we get, you know, ideas and we're like, oh, what about this? Oh, what about this? Oh yeah, and then we can make, and it will just go on and on and on. And I think that's also what makes it so enjoyable to write, is because we're just having a blast while doing it.
Did you also use this time, as you did also in other projects, the sounds, the natural sounds of the environment, of the sea, in this case the ocean? Because you used it in the boxing film and the football film.
I know. Like, funnily enough, with this one, sound design with this film was obviously huge, right?
Yeah.
Because there was a huge amount of like crashing waves, and also with the recordings in terms of like getting clear sound on the voices. Like, I do not envy the sound designer who had to work with that, because it was tough. There was a lot of stuff that is also just home videos or filmed on a handheld camera, and you can't control the ocean. You know, you have so much sound coming even inside the boat, where you can hear the waves crashing on the side, and you know, it makes it feel so overwhelming. It's very hard to leave enough space in that sense. So this was one where we were like, we do not need to add any more.
Okay.
It
was enough already.
There was enough. Like, on the contrary, I think we were trying to provide somewhat an escape from that, where you're inside the boat and you're you're really surrounded by all of this crashing sound and you let sound design take the lead role, or you're more like floating up over and above it and seeing the vastness of it all, and you're lifted out of the moment. So there was less of that in this film.
The score in itself, it was a combination of acoustic instruments and electronic layers.
Yeah, so we recorded with her ensemble in London. I think we had 13 strings. We had solo cello, an amazing cellist, Clara Schumann, in London. We had vocals on it as well. We recorded everything with an ensemble, but only at the very end. So the majority of the score still, kind of was developed by us just in the studio together. I mean, I will always try and bring as much electronics into a score as I'm allowed to, and sometimes that's less than others. But in the scene that I wanted to share with you today, the wave, it's a good example of how it did work together quite well, because you have the huge thematic big strings, but then you also have a very leading synth that kind of provides the pace and pulsing throughout all of it. And yeah, I mean, I do love my synths, and this one in particular, the Novation Summit, has seen its fair share of use on scores. And so we actually perform this song live as well now. When we do live shows for AVAWAVES, we often take this track and perform some stuff of our scores as well. And this is one of those that I then do on stage with this one in keys, and Anna's on the strings. And so it really just feels like both of our worlds coming together, and that is what AVAWAVES is.
That's an interesting last question, I think, before we start watching the scene. How does the two practices relate to each other? Are they separate for you? The performance, AVAWAVES section, and the scoring part of your life. Do they influence each other? Does it happen when you're working for AVAWAVES that you hear something or you do something, you might say, oh, you keep it in the back of your mind, I might use this later on for a score?
No, for me, AVAWAVES is completely its own thing, and it's inextricable. So like when we're scoring as AVAWAVES, it's we're scoring it as AVAWAVES. You know, that is the sound we're bringing into it. It's not like we're two composers coming together doing something completely different to our AVAWAVES sound. We're scoring it as artists at that point. And often, there's a clear distinction when we're approached. It's like, okay, I want AVAWAVES to do the score.
Yeah.
If it's something that is completely different to the style of AVAWAVES, then it would normally be something that either one of us would do alone rather than as a team. Because to us, we kind of really created our little sound world of what it is that, we do together. And so the live, it's more that I get to be AVAWAVES in the studio now too, as well as on stage, and that we both get to share both sides of that, but we're still AVAWAVES in both instances.
Okay, let's have a look at the scene. And thanks a lot for the interview. I'm very looking forward to see the scene.